Very much for having patience with me. The BQE is one of the most unestimatable highways in the world, which reflects life in general. If you learn to have patience there, then I guess you could have patience anywhere. But I thank you for yours. You know, the Barditchev Rav, the Lady Yitzchak of Barditchev, always looked to say something nice about Jews. Whenever it was possible, he found something nice to say. It is said from the Kotzker Rebbe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made every midah for a purpose, even a bad midah, for a certain purpose. There's a time you have to get angry. There's a time that a person has to be stubborn. He says, what about irrational thinking? There are some people that think so irrationally that it's absurd, that you can't even deal with them. People sometimes do that when they say that somebody once, this was a true story I think, that's what they say anyway, that the government spent who knows how much money on a research project. What was the project? They took a frog, they said jump, it jumped. They cut off one leg, they said jump, it still jumped. They cut off another leg, they said jump, it stayed where it was. So the conclusion was that if a frog loses both of its legs, it can't hear. You see, it didn't jump. You know, there are people that think that way. So why did God create this? Where's the good midah? Where can you use that as good? Said the Kotzker Rebbe, sometimes you have to use that kind of logic to be done someone lekavschut, to find something nice to say about somebody. Sometimes with the regular logic you can't. With that kind of a logic, it's possible. Possible somehow. I'll never forget. I once had there was a very distinguished psychologist, a child psychologist from a university, that he wanted to come visit the Borough Park houses with the big family. He was Jewish, I don't know how frum he was. So someone asked if he can come to my house. I said, no, I don't want to be analyzed by the Shabbos table. No, please, it's important. So they convinced me. The story goes back many years ago. So I told all my children that this Friday night we are going to behave by the table. You know, like I have a magnet on my refrigerator that says, people think we're a normal family. So, when we're here. So we're going to behave this Friday night. Right? And I want to tell you, I promised them the world if they behave Friday night. I promised them I'm going to take them to the pizza shop. I'm going to buy them the whole pizza shop. And they're going to have ice cream, the tub of ice cream. They're going to swim in ice cream. Just anything. Just behave Friday night. That means no fighting, no arguing by the table, here, there. I plead with you, I beg with you. And everybody promised that they're going to sit like little tzaddikim. And the man comes, and everybody comes to the door, and they take a graceful bow, and we all sit by the table, and no one fights over who gets whose seat. And we sing Shalom Aleichem, and he's so proud, the man's looking around, and everything is going just hunky-dory. Fine. And I'm telling them, yeah, ice cream, it's coming, just keep this up. Then I make Kiddush, okay, and I put down I drink a little bit, and I give out the cup. And my son, who was then like 8 years old, now he's a bacher, all of a sudden, he crawls on the table, on the back of the table, crawls across the table, knocks over this man's cup of wine onto his wife, who was sitting there, and I'm like, no. And he goes over to my little tray, the tray of that I have over there, left over that the wine was, and he goes, takes his hands, puts it into the tray of wine, with the wine spilled into the tray, and the biggest, loudest slurp I ever heard in my life. Down his fingers to the sheer horror of every single person that was there, and he climbs down. And I want to tell you, if you want to know what how red the scarlet red thread was in the Bet HaMikdash, you should have looked at my face then. I can't believe this. And the man is like, first she's worried about the wine on her dress that he knocked over on his crawl across the table, and she's like, and I'm saying, David, can I speak to you a little bit? And he leans over to me, says, if you need some free therapy sessions, I can help you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, really. And I took him in, and I want to tell you something. I wanted to give it to this kid. I wanted to yell at the top of my lungs. I wanted to say, I begged you, I cried for you, don't embarrass me, that's what I wanted to do. Instead, I took a deep breath. I said, I'm going to scream soon. I said, what did you do? And he's like crying. And he goes, you said that we should not talk by the table till we have permission to talk. Yes. And I saw I wasn't getting any wine. It was getting used up before it got to me. So normally I would say, I don't have wine. But I couldn't talk. And if you don't drink wine, this is not the halakha, by the way, but that's what he thought. If you don't drink wine, you're not allowed to eat the sudah. And I would have starved till tomorrow morning. So because I couldn't talk and say what my problem was, I figured I'll just be a good boy and crawl across the table and take some of the wine with my fingers, that's all. Like, what's the problem? So I said to myself, I'm going to scream at this kid. I warned them so hard not to talk that he had no other choice. So instead of yelling at him, I gave him a kiss on his forehead. I said, come, let's go back to the table. And we sat down, and I tried to explain to the man what this was all about. I said, I thought to myself at that moment, we're so angry, so hurt, so upset by people. If only we would take that extra second to stop and think before we say, how can that person do this to us? If we can take the extra second to stop and think, maybe, what was going on in his mind? Most people are not bad. People sometimes like to serve their own interests. If we only stop and rationalize, this person doesn't mean to hurt me. He has an interest. Let me deal with it. Let me try to understand. It says the Kotzker Rebbe, if you use what's called in Yiddish a krumma cup, if you use a real strange sense of reasoning, to be able to figure out, well, that's what he meant. He's not so bad. The Rabbanu Shel Olam says, I will do it for you too. So the great tzaddik of Barditchev, the Kedushat Levi, he was the one that always found something nice to say about Klal Yisrael. When they took out the rabbi of the town, they said, look! You have the wagon driver in his talit and tefillin. He's smearing the wheels with fat. He used to smear the wheels with fat and should be able to ride. What a bizayon to his talit and tefillin. The Barditchev said, can you imagine? Even when he's smearing the fat of his wheels, he wears his talit and tefillin. It all depends how you look at it. It all depends how you look at it. So the great Rav of Barditchev, before he was born, he offered to come down to this world to be the defense attorney for Klal Yisrael. And the Satan said, that's not fair. It's not fair. So there were different deals that were made to allow him to come down. Some say that he had terrible machloket, terrible ridifot, which he had throughout his life to try to distract him. So he didn't have time to think good. And also when you're under a lot of pressure and you're under a lot of pain, it's very hard to think good about someone else. Now, the great Rabbi of Barditchev is once standing there. He was also the rabbi in his town. And there was a din Torah. What was the problem? There was a young man in town who had a great idea. He said, Reuven is a tremendous business. And Shimon is a tremendous business. If I put these two together and create a merge, it's going to be a super business. But no one's going to listen to me. I'm a simple person. So he went over to one of the great wheelers and dealers in town and said, I have this great idea. But I want to know if you're going to give me a commission. He said, let me hear your idea. He said, let's get Reuven, let's get Shimon to merge together and to join their business. So they began to think, and they said, an excellent idea! Okay, but remember, you promised me a commission, sure. And this lawyer, this big dealer, got them together, they got the idea, worked out the details, and it was a tremendous merge. And then he came and reminded him, what do you want? Remember, you promised me, it was my idea. You have nothing in writing, leave me alone. So he took him to a din Torah, and the Rebbe of Barditchev listened to both sides, and he said to the big dealer, was such an agreement made? He said, yes, but I don't have to give him anything. But the din Torah is you have to honor your word, you have to give him. So he said, no, I'm not going to give. I said to him, why not? He goes, Rabbi, what do you know about wheeling and dealing, about corporate mergers? You don't know anything about this. He said to him, are you kidding me? I used to be an agent, a broker. I still am. You're a broker? Yes, said the Rabbi of Berdichev. I am a broker. Let me hear, what kind of a broker are you? For example, I saw that Klal Yisrael has a lot of chataot, avonot, and peshayim. They have a lot of terrible sins. But they don't need it. And then I saw in Shemayim they have mechila, slicha, and kapara. They have forgiveness. They don't need it. I make a deal. I went to Shemayim. I said, maybe you switch to mechila, slicha, kapara. You give it to Klal Yisrael. And Klal Yisrael you'll take from Klal Yisrael their sins. See, you want to know how the negotiations went? In Shemayim, they were very willing to give their mechila, slicha, kapara. But the Jews, they weren't so quick to give up their chataot, avonot, and peshayim. Not so quickly. Somebody once offered a new Gemilat Chesed fund. He introduced it. Free loan. He came back, he said, how did it go? He said, halfway, 50% successful. All the poor people agreed to take. Just have to do the other side. He says, you know, the Jews don't want to give up their chataot, they don't want to give up their sins. So I said, listen, I have to sweeten the deal. What does a good negotiator do? I say, listen, Ribono Shel Olam, you have something else that they need. How's about Bonei Chaye Umezoneh? Children, life, Parnasah. You know what? Let's sweeten the deal. They'll give you their chataot, avonot, peshayim. You give them mechila, slicha, kapara, and children and life and mezonot. A good deal? Okay, I agree. What should I do? They want to give up their chataot, avonot, peshayim. So I made the deal. I struck the deal, and Klal Yisrael agreed, and it was a good deal. But then I said, what is my commission on this deal? What do I get commission? So the commission is that I could decide who gets the bonei chayim mezoneh, who gets the children life and mezonot. And I could decide who to take it away from. They made me the agent, the one that's in charge of distributing the godly funds. So he said to the Kiddushat Levi, that's a very nice story. There's nothing to do with me. And he went home. By the time he got home, his head started to ring. And he had a terrible, terrible headache. And by the time he got home, he literally almost collapsed onto the chair. Could not move. He said, please, carry me back to the Kiddushat Levi. Carry me back to him very quickly, please. He said to him, okay, I got the deal. I will pay him his share. And the Kiddushat Levi said, you see what a good broker I am? So my question to you is, but he's the one that always finds good about people. Why was he so strict with this man? The Kiddushat Levi was once walking on the street and a man passed him. He stopped him. He said, this man was a terrible sinner. He said, I envy you. What do you envy me for? He said, you know, if a person does tshuva, me'ahava, if he repents out of love, zidonot, his naseh mitzvot, his averot turn into mitzvos. He says, if you do to tshuva, do you know how many mitzvot you're going to have? Because you have so many sins. So the man said to the Baditshava, you know what? Next year you're going to envy me even more. Because I'm going to have even more sins. He says, really? He says, come stand next to me tomorrow morning, by prayer, by davening. He said, I'm not scared. And he came and he stood there. And with the Kedushas Levi, he said the words, U'lashavai pesha. That those that are over the Peshayim, sooner or later are going to have to do tshuva. He repeated it time in and time out again, till the man literally went into convulsions, fell to the ground, began to cry and beg for tshuva. So I didn't understand. Sounds like the Kedushat Levi was pretty tough. Where's the great defender of Klal Yisrael? Who is he? There was a man on his way to Bardishev, to his Rebbe, and he passed the town. And in this town, he went to visit an old friend of his. He opened up the door. He said, Chaim, how are you? Chaim said, Your old friend, my name is Moshe, I'm here to see you. I see. You don't look very excited to see me. No, I'm not. What's going on in your life? Where's all your furniture? 2 seconds later, the pirates came in, the squire came in. He said, no money for the rent? Off into the dungeon. He said, please, don't take him to the dungeon. Who are you? I'm his friend. You can't take a man like that and his family and throw him into the rat-infested dungeon alone. No problem, I'll take you along with him. No, please. Listen. 300 ruble, but that's the only thing that's going to get him out. You know, tomorrow is Yom Kippur, 300 ruble. He walks out, I don't have 300 ruble. What should I do? Okay, can't do anything, I'll go home. Tell me, if he was my child, would I say the same thing? So he started walking around. Who's up now that I could ask him for money? So he passes by a bar. Looks at the bar. He says, should I go in there? Not a good place to make an appeal. But I have no choice. I have to try. And his Yetzer Hara said, don't go in. It's not going to work. They're not going to give you any money. I have to try. He opens up the door and he walks in. He walks in. They look at him, the man in a beard. The night before Yom Kippur, they're drinking away, playing cards, gambling. They look at him. He goes, you know, there's an important cause. There's someone in the jail. They burst into laughter. They start throwing tomatoes and bottles at him, and they're saying, what do you think this is? A Bet Midrash? You're coming to make a appeal? This is a bar. We're gambling. We're over the worst sins over here. He continues on. He says, I have to tell God I tried. One guy goes over to him and says, you know, I make a deal with you. See this bottle, 96 proof? You drink it up in one shot, I give you 100 rubles. Everyone's standing around. He says, I'm not used to drinking, and I can't drink a bottle in one shot. And at the end, I'll only have 100 rubles anyway. So he says, that's the Yetzer Hara. He says, don't do it, it's not going to work anyway. So he tries. He makes a bracha, he starts drinking, his face turns red, blue, green, his stomach is turning over, he's collapsing on the ground, he tries, they're all cheering him on, he finishes all to the last thing, he can't breathe. He says, I finished. Great, he gets up, he falls down, they give him the 100 ruble. Then he's struggling for breath, for life, everything is spinning around and around and around. He says, why is everyone on the ceiling? What's going on over here? Thank you very much. And then finally somebody goes over to him and says, you know, you drink a bottle of Shlivovitz. I give you another 100. He says, it's not going to be enough anyway. I have to save him, I have to try. Then he says, you know, thank you. The night of Yom Kippur, try. He drinks the bottle, he makes the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvosav, Mikra Megillah, he starts pouring it into his ear, they say, no, in your mouth. And finally he's half dead, he swallows the whole bottle, now he's laying on the floor, he's rolling from side to side, doesn't know what hit him, he's throwing up, he's smashing his head into the wall, and they're laughing their heads off. They say, now we got another bottle here, drink it. You know, he can't believe he never drank so much in his life. You know what they say? They say from Rabbi Freifeld, he said he once walked in on Purim night, he saw empty bottles of Johnny Walker and Jack Daniels. He said, that is the meaning of Shnei Gayim Bevitnech, he said, you know. Okay, so now he drinks the third bottle, then he's roaring drunk and sick, and they give him the 300 ruble, and he goes to the squire and he redeems him. And the squire sees how drunk he is, says, let's have some fun. They put him into the wagon, and they bring him to Barditchev. And he gets to Barditchev the night of Yom Kippur, and the Barditchev had just informed everyone, you should know it's a terrible year, there's a terrible decree on Klal Yisrael, and I don't know if we're going to survive this year. The Rebbe is talking that way, and people are crying, and upstairs they're crying, and no one knows what's going on over here, how are we going to survive this? Suddenly he bursts in and yells, hello everybody! And you know, it's Thanksgiving night, man, it's Purim, he falls on the floor, they scream, no! They carry him out, he comes back in. They open up the minhag in certain places. This is the night of Kol Nidre. They open up the Aron Kodesh, they take out the Sefer Torah, they carry it around, everyone goes and they kiss the Sefer Torah, and they say, I'm sorry to the Sefer Torah. He gets up, he says, Simchat Torah? Everyone is crying! No! Pushes everyone aside, he grabs the Torah, he says, this is what you have to go, Simchat Torah! He starts singing, they're chasing a crazy man, it's Friday night, the whole town is chasing him around, all the tables are being knocked over, he's dancing and singing and dancing, and grabbing people and dancing, he's roaring drunk. He was never so happy in his life, it was such a great Simchat Torah for him, but it was the night of Yom Kippur. And finally he collapses on the floor. And they carry him off. The Kedushas Levi walks into the Beit Midrash and goes, oh no, all the tables are turned over, it's a disaster, the tablecloths are on the floor, the ladies don't know what's going on, they're screaming, yelling. He goes, who is this man? He says, crazy drunk that came in the night of Yom Kippur, he heard it Simchat Torah. He said, you don't understand. This man just went and he saved the town. Because of him the decree was broken. Let me wait till he wakes up. He wakes up, he has a terrible hangover, they say, he looks around, he goes, oh, this is terrible! Who did this to the Bet Midrash? Me? Uh-oh. And they carry him into the Rebbe. And the Rebbe says, you know what you did? Falls to the floor, I'm sorry. He says, you saved the town. What did you drink over here? What did you do? Tell me the whole story. And he told the Kedushas Levi the whole story. And he took the man out and said, this man saved the town. And I once heard two versions of the story. He saved the town because look what he did to save his friend. Maybe he saved the town because the night of Yom Kippur you had a bunch of people in a bar, and after all is said and done, he got them to give money for Pidyon Shvuyim. I don't know how. So I want to understand this. This is the Kedushat Lev. Is he always the one who saves the town, or is he angry? How does this work? You know, it says about Lashon Hara, the Chavetz Chaim brings, that the Satan comes and demands punishment. I want so-and-so to be punished. Hashem says, I can't accept the testimony of a single person. So the Satan goes around and looks for someone who speaks Lashon Hara. He says, so-and-so is standing outside of his shul and said something about his neighbor. He now becomes the second witness, and as a result the person can be punished. The same is true on the other way. Sometimes the Rebbeinu Shalom says, I want to give this person such a great bracha, but we need a psak din from someone down here. And you walk and you say, so-and-so, such a hard life. And they try, they're so happy, they try, they do whatever they can. Try so hard. You know what happens in Shemayim? They say, that's the second person we're looking for. We'll give him the bracha. After 120 years we will come up, we're going to be told, you killed someone? Me! You know how you hurt someone? You know you took away someone's business? Never in my life! Did you speak Lashon Hara at night, in the morning? And they show him you were the second testimony. And somebody else, they bring him along, they say, here, you from the great heroes. You saved someone's life. I don't mind taking the credit. When did I save someone's life? You said something nice about someone? There's a tremendous power that we have down here with our words. Now, there was a Rebbe, a great tzaddik, that I knew. He was called the Rivnitzer Rebbe. He came from Russia, lived in an unbelievable time of Mesirat Nefesh. And this Rebbes, they daven late. We don't understand these things. They used to daven, I was a little boy, and he used to daven at 2 o'clock in the morning. Afternoon, daven Shachrit. And he always asked that another 9 people should daven along with him, no less and no more. 10 people should daven with the Rebbe. And as a little boy in the bungalow colony, and sometimes it was hard to get people, sometimes too many people wanted to daven. There was a young man over there. This young man was not the biggest tzaddik. And I saw him davening in the morning. He put on his talit, tefillin, walked out, was smoking, talking, went back in. And in the afternoon, he came around. He decided, I want to daven in the minyan of the Rabbi. I want to daven in the minyan of the Rabbi. Please, let me go in. So the Gavai, the attendant, said, did you pray already this morning? So he lied. He said, no, I didn't. And I knew he lied, but I'm a little boy, I'm not going to say anything. So he went in, and the Rebbe begins to daven. He turns around and starts staring at everybody. And he stops before him and looks at him and says, did you daven yet? Yeshua davened? He's like, did you daven yet? He realized the Rebbe caught on, but he lied. So he ran out. He ran out, so I followed him. I wanted to see what's going to happen. And I see he's like doing a jig. He's so happy. And the attendant says to him, what are you so happy about? The Rebbe just caught you with a lie. You said that you didn't daven yet and you already davened. He said, I never believed that the kind of shacharit that I davened would register in anyone's Ruach HaKodesh. That the Rebbe saw in Shemayim that even that kind of a davening counts, that God is listening to us. So I said this story, and once someone came over to me who was close to the Rebbe's wife, and a family over there, and he said, I want to tell you another story. That the Rebbe was very careful about slichot also. He would daven late, and he only wanted another 9 people in his minyan. Only 9 people. And 9 people who did not say slichot yet. So one young man, a very dehoiben, a fine young man, came in, and they asked him, did you say slichot yet? No. So he came, and the Rebbe started to daven, he turned around, and he turned to him and said, did you say slichot yet? He said, no. The Rebbe said, did you say slichot yet? No. So he walked out because he was embarrassed. And the attendant said, why did you lie? So I did not lie, I did not say slichot yet. So they went to the Rebbe and he says he didn't. He says, ask him exactly what happened. He went to the minyan, Matzoi Shabbat, at 1 o'clock. And he opened up his slichot. And he only said these words. L'cha Hashem hatzedakah v'lanu boshet hapanim. Rebbeinu Shem, whatever you give us as charity, I am so embarrassed. And then he said, no, I want to down with the Rebbe's minion. And he closed the slichut and he walked out. He only said those words. So the Rebbe said, he said these words, Hashem, I owe you my life. I should be embarrassed. His slichot was accepted in Shemayim. What do you want from me? To me, his slichot was said already. Now, I want to explain this. The Rebbe of Berditchev was not a fool when he said, oh, what a tzaddik, he puts on his talit and tefillin even when he smears the thing. The Rebbe said, in our life, we are looking for people who say, you know, I'm embarrassed. I wish I could have a better marriage. I wish I could have a better relationship with the people around me. I wish I can get my life together. Once you do that, the Rebbe says, your shacharit counts in Shemayim. He was the great defender of Klal Yisrael. But a man who says, I fear not. No one is going to tell me who to give anything. I don't care who's right or who's wrong. I am a businessman. I'm in charge. I'm going to live forever. You're going to live forever? Really? Then the Rebbe told him exactly who you are. You know, I think that I shared this story with some of my friends over here a while ago, but I'm going to say it again, just to bring out the point. I had the opportunity. I traveled to Australia this year, in the summer. And we landed, it's a nice trip, it's 5 hours to California and another 14 hours to... When we were about to land, the pilot announced that he's landing in Brisbane. Where's Brisbane? It's supposed to land in Sydney. He said, terrible weather. So we landed in Brisbane. One person starts jumping up and down. He's so excited. He's so happy. What are you so happy about? Why are you so happy? Why are you jumping up and down? Why are you so happy? He says, I live in Brisbane. Great. He says, open the door. They said, we can't open the door. Why can't you open the door? He says, because the rule is that if it wasn't on the itinerary, then it's against customs and regulations to let you out. He says, wait a second. Are you telling me I'm going to sit here for 2 hours on this plane to fly 2 hours away to Sydney for me to miss my connecting flight to Brisbane? You're going to put me up in a hotel. I'm going to get home in a day from now when I'm right here? Yes. We couldn't have said it better ourselves. And he was going out of his mind. And I said to myself at that moment, you know, a yid has emunah. You have emunah. Life is very, very different. Very different. If you feel you're in control, and you're right there, and things are getting in your way and you can't do it, you're ready to kill, you're ready to destroy. You come home at night, I want the house to be set perfect. It's not perfect, it's my wife's fault, it's her fault. Wait, who said you're in control to start with? If we had the amunah that we are where we're supposed to be, the world would be very, very different. Why do we say, okay, the truth is, I'm talking from Ashkenaz. When do we start saying slichot? We don't say Rosh Chodesh El. We say on Motzei Shabbat. On Motzei Shabbat. Why do we always start saying Slichot Motzei Shabbat? And why is the Motzei Shabbat Slichot so important? Adam Harishon. When did he eat from the Eitz Hadas? Who knows? When did he eat from the Eitz Hadas? The Gemara says in Masechet Shabbat, he ate right before Shabbat. The Gemara says, had he only waited until Shabbat, it would have been permissible. There would have been no death on the world, no pain, no difficulty having babies, no difficulty of parnasah, no death, no nothing. Like most averot and mitzvot, you see a person has a certain amount of pleasure down here in this world. If a person engages in something which is asur, he's using up pleasure that would have come his way anyway. And if a person suffers because he wants to fulfill a mitzvah, they're only going to deduct the suffering from someplace else. At the end, no one gains one drop because he enjoyed things on this world or the lack of such. So now, what happens over here? Let's talk about our friend, this person. Somebody once came to the Rebbe of Berditchev and he began to cry. And he begged and he pleaded, please, let me leave town. I'm going to rush to get home. The Rebbe said, no, come here. You have an etrog? Yes, I have an etrog. What's with this etrog? Let me see your etrog. He says, it's here. What do you want? This etrog that you have, please, stay here. I don't have an etrog. Stay here with me. No, I can't stay here with you. Why can't you stay here with me? I don't want to stay. I want to go home to my family. You want to go home to your family? But if you stay here with me, Shabbat over Yom Tov, because there's only one etrog, you know what I promise you? I promise you will be with me in Gan Eden. With you in Gan Eden? The great light of Gan Eden, of course, I'll be with you in Gan Eden. Sure! I'm staying. Send a letter to my home, I'm not coming home. First night of Sukkot. So the Rebbe, he's the big hero in the town. Because of him, the Rebbe has an etrog. So he comes to the Sukkah. Please, let me in. I am here. And he's about to step into the Sukkah. And the Rebbe's guard says, no, you can't come into the Sukkah. Why can't I come in? You cannot come into the Sukkah. I can't come into the Sukkah. But why? He knocks on the next Sukkah, please. I'm here. You can't come in. Next Sukkah. You can't come in. What is this, Sodom? Why isn't anyone inviting me into the Sukkah? The Rebbe said you cannot come into any Sukkah. Why? I gave the Rebbe my etrog. Ask the Rebbe. Comes back, bangs. The Rebbe comes out and says, what's the problem? No one's letting me into this Sukkah. Okay. I told him not to. What did I do wrong? I gave you my etrog, and I promise you will be with me in Gan Eden. Right? Yeah. Well, guess what? Here's the deal. Unless you are willing to forego on that promise that you will not be with me in Gan Eden, you will not be able to eat in a sukkah tonight. If you want to eat in a sukkah, says the Rebbe, then you have to forgive me on the promise of being Gan Eden. Now that's not fair. Life is not fair. And the Rebbe walks in. This is the Kedushat Levi. This is the big tzaddik. He sits down. He says to him, I never missed Sukkot in my life. Not to eat especially the first night, the kazayit. And he said to himself, there's no mitzvah to have Gan Eden. There's a mitzvah to eat in the sukkah. Fine, I give up. I give it up. You don't have to give me your Gan Eden. Fine, come into the sukkah. He came into the sukkah. He started to cry. And the Rebbe said to him, why are you crying, my dear friend? I'm not home and I lost my Gan Eden. No, you're going to be with me in Gan Eden, I promise you. What is this? Make up your mind. He says, if you would have been with me in Gan Eden now, I would have ordered you in, you would have come in. But you would have been so embarrassed. And they would say, what's he doing? He doesn't belong here. What's he doing here? And I would have said, well, I promised. And would you have been so embarrassed. But now I will say, what's he doing here? This man was willing to give this up to perform a mitzvah. Oh, wow. Now you're going to be comfortable in Gan Eden after 120 years. Do you understand? I don't. I'm still not sure why he had to go through this pain. Not so sure. Adam Harishon eats from the Eitz Hadat right before Shabbat. What did you do? You would have waited till Shabbat. It would have been permissible. Now you brought death on the world and curse on the world. No. Shabbat comes. Is he thrown out of Gan Eden on Shabbat? No. Because Hashem says, I should throw a Yid out of Gan Eden on Shabbat. No. So he stays in the Gan Eden the entire Shabbat. Mitzvah Shabbat, you have to leave now. And he walks out, and for the first time in his life, he sees darkness. Not just a plain darkness, but a darkness that he never ever envisioned his entire life. He says, I brought this darkness to the world. Death, pain, the Holocaust, people suffering, people that are sick. And he falls to the ground and bursts into tears. And Adam Rishon gets up, Mitzvah Shabbat, and he says, no! Life has to go on. I lost the Or HaGanus, the light of happiness, light of Simcha. I must try to make whatever light I can. And he takes 2 sticks and he rubs them together, he creates a fire. He says, okay, we're going to survive. We're going to have light. In some way. And that is why Matzah Shabbat, we make the bracha of Borei Me'orei Ha'esh. Now I once heard this question. This means that the very first Shabbat of the world, Adam Rishon had to live through Shabbat knowing he's going to be thrown out. Matzah Shabbat. Isn't that sad? Could he not have had at least one Shabbat where he was there at home? And the answer is, says the Sfarim in Chassidus, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did this by design. For Adam HaRishon put into the world a power that here is Shabbat, and I'm not in the mood of Shabbat. I am in the mood of so angry at my husband, I'm so angry at my wife, I'm storming out, I'll never forgive her, never. Spilled the wine, jumps. You know what? It's Shabbat. We'll deal with it Mitzvah Shabbat. We will deal with it. Life will go on. Life will go on. I saw a mother on Thursday night. They never stopped giving her therapy because she's so sick. And she came home and I went to visit them Friday night. You know what she was doing? 2 people were holding her up and she was baking challah and baking cakes. And they told me that the next morning she went down to put her child on the bus. You know how long it took her to go down the stairs and put her child on the bus, come back up? It took her almost an hour and a half. Each step, labored with terrible, terrible pain. Why are you doing this? As long as God gives me life, I put my child on the bus. As long as God gives me life, I put my chalot in the oven. I'm not going to lose this Shabbat because I don't know what's going to be on Sunday. That was the bravest thing I ever heard in my entire life. I never heard anything like it. There was a man, Rabbi Israel, he was very sick. He had terrible machla on his face. And I went to visit him. His face was distorted. I couldn't even tell where the eyes, where's the nose, where's the mouth. And he was laying, and he knew that he had days left. We made like a little kumsitz for him. It was before Shabbat. And we had to go home. And he called everyone over. And he said, I wish I can repay you. How can I repay you? And there was a smile on his face. I know how. I am a Kohen. And he took everyone's hand. He said, Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. Yaya Hashem panav elach. He says, I hope my bracha is now very sincere. Come, Shabbat is coming. Sing me a song for Shabbat. You know the power of Klal Yisrael? To face the Malach HaMavis in the eye and say, now is Shabbat? To go through such pain? You want to destroy a family and say, no, now it's Shabbat. I'm going to relax. Life is going to go on. It's going to be good. It's going to be sweet. Adam HaRishon put this power into the Bria on the very, very first Shabbat. Very first Shabbat of the world. My dear friends, I want to conclude. You know why Slichot is Mitzvah Shabbat? Because we look at our lives, we say, what's going to be? The world's going to blow up? The elections, personal lives, the sufferings. Why am I going on? I can't get peace in my home. Why am I going on? And we say, Rabbanu Shalom, I'm going to try to light the match and life will go on. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu hears that and says, let me give you a kiss on your forehead. You can now say Slichot. And you say, L'cha Hashem Atzdaka V'lanu B'Shas HaPanim, and I forgive you. And at this very, very moment, I forgive you for everything. I want to conclude with the following story tonight. A friend of mine, very good friend of mine, his mother passed away a while ago. She had a disease, no one should know from it, called ALS. That meant that her hands, feet no longer worked. The only thing that she could do was move her eyes. And the way they could communicate with her was only one way. They would hold something in front of her eyes, and she would blink once to say yes, blink twice to say no. They would run the fingers down the Aleph Bet chart, here and back and forth. And once she was crying, the mother, tears were coming. They said, Mama, why are you crying? She can't talk. On the chart she shows Chet, Lamed, Hey. Challah? You want to eat challah? You know you can't eat. What do her children understand? She's crying. She shows again Chet, yeah. Samach, Hey. Chet, Samach, Dalet. Chesed. Finally her daughter says, I know! Every Friday, with her last kochot, she used to bake challah and separate challah. She would cry for people that are sick. That's what she did. She can't do it anymore. So the daughter ran down that night and she baked challah. She came running up. She took her mother's hands, put it into the dough, squashed it, took it up, because the mother cannot move her fingers. She made the beracha. She said, her mother answered Amen with her eyes. She blinked. They told her names of people that are sick. There was, even though she can't move her lips, they thought they saw like a smile in her eyes. So the children made up, you know what, we're not going to fight with each other. There's going to be only chesed in this home. We're going to tell our mother every single week, we're going to give them a report. There's no hatred in our house. And it's a your schut. And any person we can do a favor to, we're going to do a favor. And this boy is driving home, my friend of mine, and he has an old yeshiva shakar like mine, and he's flying in the Garden State Parkway, it's very late, and one of the windshield wipers goes this and flies off into the woods. And now he's like, he can't even see where he's going, and he passes, and he sees lights. And from his peripheral vision, he realized that standing over there was one of those raincoats, you know, that they have, goes over your head. Only Jews have those raincoats. He said, there's no way I can go back, that's all. It's the middle of the night, it's driving. And as he's driving, he says, what will my mother do to be able to go and help that person? And he drove onto the grass between the highway and the storm, and backed up, and backed all the way up, jumped out. The state trooper turns around and says, what are you doing here? He says, this is my brother. He says, this your brother? And looks, never saw him before. He goes, yeah, brothers, yeah, brothers. All right, so go home. Gets into the car, he drives him home to Lakewood. He says, you know, I hit a tree, skidded out, my car is gone. Baruch Hashem, I came out alive, totally. He goes, okay, where are you going to Lakewood? Going to a wedding. He says to him, how are you going to get back? I don't know. He says, you know, there's a certain road, a Squantum, you stand over there on that road, you get hitches. You have any problem? Here's my cell phone. My friend goes to sleep 2 o'clock in the morning, and he hears bzz, bzz. No, he wants to take the cell phone, put it into the water, the Negelwasser, throw it out the window, he picks it up. Hello, did I wake you? No. You didn't wake me. What can I do for you? You sure I didn't wake you? No, I had to get up with the phone anyway. What? He says, remember me? Chaim, who are you? You picked me up tonight, yesterday, tonight. Oh yeah. He says, I'm standing in the road, there's a storm and there's no hitches, I don't know where to go. So he gets out of bed. His wife says, where are you going? He says, I'm going to pick him up. What do you have with him? Why are you going to pick him up? I'm going to pick him up. Hey, God put me together with him, that's the reason, right? And he brings him home to his house. He says, go to sleep, wake up in the morning. He says, I got to get back to Muncie tomorrow morning. By 8 o'clock I have to get there for work. He says, you take the bus in the morning. I won't make it in time. He says, what should I do for you? So finally my friend says, you know what? Here are the keys to my car. Go. His wife says, what are you getting the keys to your car? You don't know who he is. He hit one tree already tonight. No. God put me together with him. He's my brother. Go. He goes to sleep. 2 hours later, his phone rings. Hello? I'm the one with your car? Yeah? What happened? He just finished telling his wife, what are the chances of 2 accidents in one night? Now he goes, yeah. He says, speak to the mechanic. Mechanic? Speaks to the mechanic. Hello? Mechanic says, I got to tell you that your car was just towed in over here and a gasket is burnt out. A gasket? Oh. He says, listen, my car's an old car. You up to $35 you can fix it. No. He says, this is $2,000. $2,000, the whole car's no, don't fix it. He goes back to the guy, I'm so sorry, guys, it's not your fault, it burnt out. Listen. He says, I should pay you, don't pay me, listen, I'll ask a Rav, okay? So my friend goes to a rabbi the next day, he says, does the man have to pay? He says, he borrowed the car. He said, it died on the way, that's called the Meitei Machmat Milacha. In the normal usage, he doesn't have to pay. He calls him up, he says, you don't have to pay for the car. His wife said, I told you, what it was. I would have gotten stuck with it someplace. I did what I had to do, and that's all. You're not upset? Why should I be upset at you? Just tell me where this mechanic is, I have to pick up some personal stuff I have in the car. The next day he calls the mechanic, he says, I'm coming to pick up some personal stuff, and then I'll have a cab take me home. The guy says, why cab? Why can't you drive your car? He says, because the gasket is gone. He says, no, but I put in a new engine. You put in a what? Put in a new engine. How much does that cost? $3,000. You put in a new engine. Will you stop screaming? I'm not screaming. You stop. Will you take it easy? I'm very calm and I'm taking it easy. I didn't tell you to put $3,000. You calm down. The guy paid for it. Which guy paid for it? The guy that brought the car in. There's a mistake. He calls up the guy and says, why'd you pay for it? I asked the Rav. He says, you don't have to pay. He says, I also asked the Rav. The Rav said, tell me what happened. I told him the car overheated. I pulled over to the side of the road. And what did you do? I waited for the smoke to go down. I drove further. Nah. You're supposed to put in more liquid, more antifreeze. So you're negligent. You have to pay. So I went out and told him about put in a new engine. I said to him, I would have never known that. What happened? He says, God would know what happened. I said, you stopped for me on the highway because you believed there was hashgacha. So I should lie? This is the truth. I paid for it. I'll pay it off. I'll figure out a way to pay it off. He says, I want to give you a bracha for panasa. Don't give me no bracha. It's okay. He says, you know what? You want to give me bracha? This man says, the one who got into the accident and later burnt out the car. He said, I'm married 10 years. I have no children. give me a bracha for children. He says, I have a better idea. What's your name? Tells him his name. What's your wife's name? The next Friday, his sister goes, and she has a play group. And all the little girls bake challah. And they come up. And 10 times, she goes with her mother's hand. And each little girl makes a bracha. And the mother answers Amen with her eyes. And she whispers in the name of this man, name of this boy, name of his wife. They forget the story. A year later, my friend is in bed, 2 o'clock in the morning. His phone rings. Hello? This is the one with your... This is so-and-so? Oh no, my car! Wait, you don't even have my car. What? He says, I wanted to call you in the middle of the night. I'm sorry to tell you, my wife just gave birth to a baby boy. This man told me the story himself. Why was the child born? The bracha of the mother, the challah, the fact that he stopped on the highway, or maybe the overall fact that we realize, you know what Gan Eden is? Gan Eden is not when everyone does everything right. Gan Eden is when there's a lot of pain in my heart and a lot of fear. And I say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I am mochel. I give up. I want a new good year. When you do that, then Adam HaRishon has paved the way from us. Then the Barditcheva says, now come here. I will find zchut in your life. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says you should all have a good gebench year, a wonderful year, and a ketiva, v'chatima tova.